City again, and X3, and an absolutely exquisite finish with 2.5 minutes to go. And we talked her up, Darren Hemp, and we've said what a good player she's going to be. And what a fine goal it was to wrap up the FA Cup final.
Hello and welcome to this very special episode of MCW Fancast. On this week's episode, I'm joined by Dan Pentland from the Fawsl Full Time magazine. Nice to have you back, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, long time no speak. Nice to speak to you, Emma. I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Plodding along as you best you can, given the circumstances. I mean, it's been quite a difficult time for us all of late, especially obviously coming to terms with the intensity really of COVID-19 and its impact that it's had. These are most certainly unprecedented times, and it's difficult to talk about because we face so much uncertainty at the moment. There have been so many discussions that are yet to be had, decisions to be made. But the information that we do know, how are you feeling about the prospect of this current season resuming and the completion of the league?
There's pros and cons, I think, Emma. I think I was looking earlier today, and obviously BBC broke the news that the season could be delayed, the completion of it up until the end of, early August. Providing that we're underway again by the end of June, taking in mind possibly 12 weeks of lockdown or self-isolation will probably bring you to about the second last week of June. It gives you probably 9 weeks to complete the season. I think some clubs have got, I think Birmingham have the most, don't they? I think they've got 9 games. So 1 week. Probably, it's going to be less than that, isn't it? Beginning of end of June, beginning of July. Sorry, it's going to be about 6 weeks. So yeah, you can probably say 1 per weekend and 3 midweeks out of 6 or something like that. Probably doable for the FA Women's Super League clubs. Obviously, the full-time players, it's very much their job. Obviously, they've got a little bit of time now for a bit of rest and kind of to look after themselves whilst keeping fit and keeping on top of their training programmes. But yeah, providing that we're up and running by the end of June again, that's probably about the limit to be able to get it completed by the time the deadline which the Football Association are currently thinking about. I do have concerns of the Championship. I think there's a lot of travelling in the Championship. Some of the northern clubs in particular, the likes of Durham and Sheffield. A lot of London games in that league. It's going to be quite daunting on their travels, but also some of these players are balancing jobs as well as playing. Yeah. So if you're going to have to factor in midweek games there, it's going to be very, very tough for that league to complete. And I'm just not sure whether that the Championship is going to be able to end.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that as well, but you've got to think about those fixtures that have already been postponed that haven't been factored into the fixtures that were already there. So games, where Chelsea had got games in hand, that we'd lost games to like Storm Ciara, Storm Dennis. I mean, those games as well, we've got to think about those games that have also got to be factored into this.
Yeah, and there's certain specific factors for some clubs as well. For example, I know that Liverpool is a prime example. There is proposed work to happen at their home ground at Prenton Park over the summer. Now, if their games, if the season begins again, you'd have to think that they would have to play away. I think they've still got City to play as well at Prenton Park this season.
Yeah, that was one of the first fixtures that were due back.
That fixture won't take place at Prenton Park. It's going to take place somewhere else. But every club is probably going to be playing catch up a little bit in terms of the day-to-day stuff as well as the stuff on the pitch. So yeah, that's one thing straight away that I think Tottenham might be in the same position, London Beat might be in the same position with regard to their home grounds needing immediate work to the pitch, if you like. So there's going to be those kind of problems. Probably player fitness and injuries as well. I mean, it's been well documented this year about how many ACL injuries have been, and that strain, on the muscles and on the legs. you don't want to risk any additional injury to players. And, as I say, I'm thinking about the Championship here as well. I think there's play, it's undoubtedly, it's a fact, if you like, that the Super League players are going to be fitter than the Championship players, so they're going to be better equipped to deal with it. But, for the Championship players, how, if you get to a point where you're playing Saturday, Tuesday every week for a period of, 5 or 6 weeks, then that's going to be very, very tough on them.
Yeah, I mean, we have actually had a question from Jude about this, because obviously we've seen a lot on social media with players posting on their Instagrams and Twitter and whatnot, is that a lot of players seem to be continuing with their fitness regimes at home, and it looks as though the club have issued equipment for them to do that at home, which is great to see. I mean, especially to offer that equipment and to have that equipment. So it looks as though they're encouraging the players to obviously keep up with those daily routines and their fitness, their personal fitness regimes in particular as well.
Yeah, I think we've got to, because we don't know when the season's going to start again. Really, everybody's going to have to continue almost as if it's like an international break, if you like, but an awfully long one. Everyone's going to have to keep in tip-top shape, because you don't know how quickly the season's going to start again. I don't think it's going to come to this, but if it came to the 30th of April and they said, right, we're going to start again in 2 weeks or whatever, your players are going to have to be sharp. But at the same time, you've got to be sensible with it, because they're going to have the rest, because I think they're going to have an intense period if the season does begin again. But yeah, on the question and the point about the gym equipment, the club's being supportive of players and their individual training programs. It's really great to see, and I think it'll get some bad press that sometimes players are struggling to get the equipment in some cases. But what you've got to remember here is that some clubs have, how many players will they have on the books to try to cater for? I mean, you could use probably City or Chelsea maybe as an example. They'll have all the first team, the men's players. They'll have God knows how many academy teams. They'll have the women's team. They'll have the development teams. That's an awful lot of equipment to find, and an awful lot of players to support outside of the usual environment. So, with respect, really, I know it's, if City are doing a good job with their players, that's fantastic. But for some of the other clubs which are struggling, I kind of sympathise with the difficulties which they face.
Yeah, I mean, those watt bikes, I imagine they weigh a ton, so whoever's moving them about is doing a grand job.
Yeah, and everything's happened so quickly as well, Emma. I think 2 weeks today I attended my last football match, and within that time, obviously, we've had guidance issued. We've then had the lockdown situation. We've had leagues suspended. We've had new deadlines about discussing when they might start. The goalposts have moved again, and we've got new deadlines. And obviously, at the time, if we go back a couple of weeks, we had situations where there were symptoms of coronavirus in Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester. I think Manchester City might have had somebody who there could have been a link back to the illness with as well. So at that time, to sort out where players stood and, to sort out the training programs and what they were going to do in terms of individual kind of at-home training, it has all been very chaotic and kind of, well, not really last minute as such, but everything's had to be done in a real rush.
A lot of, obviously, stuff has come out over social media in particular now, because obviously it seems, a really good way for players to communicate with their fans, just to let them know they're okay and how they're doing. And, we've seen that from a lot of other clubs as well. I know Willie Kirk was talking on the Women's Football Weekly show on TalkSport last week about how his team are having, they're using Zoom and they're having quizzes and they're just getting together and getting online so they can keep up that communication and that morale within the team and things like that. I mean, it's all affected us in different ways. I mean, I know this isolation period that, a lot of us are experiencing is something that we've never experienced before. But when you're in a team environment like that, I mean, to utilise technology and be able to use it in such a way, it's pretty good to see as well.
Yeah, and I think, the thing is that obviously clubs and fans are going to be apart for some time, so it's important for everybody to remind, well, probably provide a little bit of normality in people's lives in terms of the club's community and players communicating with fans, but also kind of reminding them that they are still there and they are still part of each individual community, what they represent. It's really important. But I think I'd like to see more players step it up, without a doubt. I don't think we've seen as many players as we could have seen, and that's no criticism towards the players. We've also seen some excellent examples, using City as one, Esme Morgan, Lauren Henn, Jill Scott. They've reached out to the fans, they've reached out to the community, they've tried to keep smiles on faces. So that's been great, and it's a good job we've got things like social media at the minute, without a doubt. But I'd like to see more clubs do it. I think there's some clubs who we haven't heard from so much. I think there's some players which we maybe haven't heard from as much as we could do, really. It'd be nice for more people to be involved. Because obviously we don't know how long this is going to go on for.
Do you almost feel like there's an almost a comforting feel that you can take away from it? Because I know a lot of fans, and I suppose I can draw on my own experiences that I work all week. I live for the football at the weekend. When it comes around, it's what gets me through, and I know that is sort of reminiscent a lot on social media at the moment, is that people are missing the football. I mean, I'm trying to look at it in the kind of like, we've took our the season's finished and it's summer and there's just no sport. That's how I'm trying to focus my mind, is it just as if it's like a natural break in the year, and it's that downtime between the end of the season picking up again at the end of the summer sort of thing. But it is really difficult. If football is such a massive part of your life, this is something, we've obviously never had before. And I think it sort of shows how important football can be to some people, that community, the fan base, seeing your friends, meeting your friends at the football matches and those kind of things as well. To draw comfort on, seeing your players, your favourite player on social media and just reaching out and doing things. Like, I think that sort of engagement that you have, it sort of almost softens the blow, maybe just a little bit. And like you said, to see more engagement from clubs and more people getting involved would kind of just sort of help the situation a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's always nice to see players at the best of times, even when it's when we haven't got a world crisis on our hands. It's always nice a couple of times a week to be able to go on social media and see what the players are doing, how they're feeling, what normal life sometimes is for them as well. Because everybody has a different life, and some of the players do lead interesting lives. Obviously, we see inside the home sometimes, like Lauren and Esme.
Yeah, to be honest, that took me by surprise, but it was very good. Like, I didn't expect that whatsoever, and I thought it was really funny, really, really good, and it really did brighten up a lot of people's day, I think.
Yeah, as I say, I would just like to see more. I think more updates from the clubs, maybe more features from the clubs in terms of what's going on. I know some of the clubs have been very supportive towards ourselves throughout the crisis and offering help where it can be provided. Obviously, it's a difficult time for everybody. But it would just be nice to have a network from every club feeding back into the football world. And at the minute, we've probably got maybe 50% of that, but it'd be nice just for a little bit more. So I don't want any club to be forgotten, and I think some clubs financially are going to be really hit by this. Maybe not so much in Super League, but certainly in the next level down. So it would be really good for clubs to continue to reach out to fans, keep them at the forefront of the minds, and then when we're talking about people rallying around for their football clubs where this break ends, when we're talking about season tickets, when we're talking about people attending games again. We haven't kind of had a break in communication.
Yeah. The FA announced on Friday that the leagues within tiers 3 to 7 have reached a decision to bring the seasons to an end with immediate effect. There's obviously been a lot of backlash from this. A lot of clubs have come out and spoke out about how there's been little consultation with those lower league clubs, and that's really disappointing to see. Do you feel that there's been a bit of an injustice there?
Well, it's bizarre because I think Sunderland had a case where I think there are a number of points clear that look certain for promotion to the Championship, and obviously that's been blocked now by the decision which was made. I think they've jumped the gun. I think it's difficult because I think you've got to look at those steps which were kind of voided. Some of the facilities probably aren't great. I think it's Portsmouth who I'm thinking of, who had something like about 12 games to play because they'd had that many postponed.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get them played. I think it was either they've got 12 games played or they're an awful long way behind the rest of the league in terms of the games which they have left. A near impossible task there, I think, for them to complete anyway. So yeah, there's. I think they'd even gone as long as about 2-3 months without even playing a game. So for them, it would be really difficult for the season to begin again. But the clubs who've done well this year and are at the top of their leagues, yeah, it is really harsh. And for them to not be able to complete the season or do it on a points average, maybe, so that teams get their rewards based on how they've performed throughout the whole season so far. It maybe wasn't the best decision to make. The other thing is that we're at the end of March. It's not as if we're at the end of April or May here. There was a little bit of time to think about a decision. But yeah, the difficulty the further down the pyramid you go is, when do these games get played? If a break ends, a lot of these clubs will only play weekends. How can you schedule what's left to be played in midweek and on weekends? In some cases that might have been really difficult. Because
that came out on Friday, a lot of fans were expecting an announcement to come on the status of the WSL and the Championship leagues. How far away do you think we are from getting that announcement?
I'll be honest, I think it could be within a couple of weeks. I still think that the league might get voided because I think, and it shouldn't do, but I think that the Premier League and the Football League are due to meet on Friday unless any meeting is brought forward. And I've got, if the heavyweights make a certain decision, and I think they've already hinted that there could be difficult decisions to make. If they make one of those difficult decisions and it is to void their respective competitions, then there's not much left other than the FA Women's Super League and the Championship to make a decision on this season, and they will be going against everything else which has been agreed by the Football Association. So I think it shouldn't be, but I think Friday is probably a big day for the FA Women's Super League, but it's got nothing to do with the FA Women's Super League. I think we've got to look at the crisis, and I think for me, I'd wait another month. I think the mid to end of April gives you a better idea. Is it going to start again? For me, that cut-off is the end of June. If they're saying that they want fixtures fulfilled by the beginning of August in terms of starting again, but how long can you leave it? If we get to the end of May or even the middle of May, and there's been X amount of deaths, and they talk about that curve in government about the coronavirus cases and the deaths going down. If we don't see a change to that upward curve, then we can't begin to start thinking about when the season's going to begin again. I think I don't want a knee-jerk decision. I don't want a quick resolution. I'd like the Football Association to maybe carry this on at least for another month, and let's reassess at the end of April. That gives you another best part of 3 and a bit months to complete the competition, bearing in mind that there might be a little bit more self-isolation involved as well. I don't want them to rush, and I think that decisions have been rushed lower down the pyramid. Let's see what happens rather than jump to a conclusion within the next 7 to 14 days.
It doesn't feel like an impossible situation. the completion of the league, or both leagues in this case, is still a possibility, but it almost seems the further time goes on and how this situation does escalate, if it continues to escalate, like you said, it would seem really unfortunate to jump into like a rash decision like we've seen from the FA on Friday.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and I really hope that the powers above listen to this, but for me, let this virus get out of the system. Yeah. Let it be over and done with. Let people go out again. Let normal life resume. Let's talk about starting the season again in August or September. September, say. We've got in Super League? I think we said we've got 9 games left maximum. In the Championship, I think Charlton has played 12. There's a couple of other teams who played 12 out of 20, so they've got 8 games left. My solution's an easy one. We start the season in September in terms of recommence the current campaign. We play that till the end of November. We also factor in there any remaining Women's FA Cup fixtures. You could put next year's County Cup in there. That's one for debate. And then let's shut it off. Let's shut it off in November, and everybody has a 6-week break, and we do another spring series. Although it's not ideal, we do a next year, 2021 spring series. Maybe from January to May or end of April. Everybody plays each other once, and then we're back in sync with the calendar again. Obviously, we don't know what's happening with Euro 2021 yet, so we could schedule the end of the spring series for end of April to allow players time to link up with their respective nations, just in case. But for me, that's the best alternative, which allows the current season to be completed, albeit probably 6 months later than it should have been. But it also puts a bit of a stopgap in, and also that with the clubs which are promoted and relegated, or it just gives them that chance to bed in a little bit as well before next season, after what's been a difficult period.
Yeah. How would you feel about a more intense schedule of the games being played, say, Wednesday night, and then over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and then, a midweek fixture for the teams?
Yeah, well, I think this is something which we've got to learn by for the long term, not just for the short term. We tend to have gaps in our season where we'll play. I think I don't know if it was Lee Birch, London Bees manager, who mentioned this. But for example, in December, I think some clubs played 4 games in about 14 days. Mm-hmm. Yet there's huge gaps throughout the season where sometimes clubs have 3 weeks off, and it's a bizarre way to schedule a competition. I just don't get the scheduling, to be honest. It's something which needs to be looked at not only with the fixtures which are left, but also the long term for me. I think, if we have to play midweek fixtures, and let's face it, the leagues are growing and the competition is becoming much stronger. We've got more and more teams becoming professional. So there is going to be an element where you play on a weekend and you play in midweek a few times throughout the season. So why can we not schedule, for example, if you've got X amount of London clubs, why can we not have London derbies in midweek? There'll be certain fixtures which you'd like on a weekend. For example, Man City, Man United, you'd like that to be a showcase game. On a weekend, you'd probably like Arsenal or Chelsea to be very similar. But we're in year 2020 now, and the FA Women's Super League's in its 9th year now, I think, and there's still bonkers scheduling. I just don't get why there's not straightforward common sense used within the scheduling of the fixture calendar. We're just not doing ourselves any favours. And yeah, we've got a task that if the season goes ahead between now and August, then yeah, we've got a number of fixtures to try and fit in and accommodate players' jobs in some cases, travelling. The fact that some teams have more games to play than others. But this is a long-term picture that come on, we're trying to build this fantastic brand, and we're trying to build what is even at the minute, two very competitive divisions with excitement at both ends of the table. But for goodness sake, let's start looking at when fixtures are scheduled, and let's not have these gaps. But also, if we're going to have midweek fixtures, which we are going to have at one point, because I think the Super League's going to grow, and I think the Championship will grow as well.
Yeah.
In terms of teams participating in those competitions. But come on, let's stop being daft about the spaces, but also midweek scheduling. We've just got to be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more sensible towards the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, a lot of fans have obviously had their opinions as to how they feel that the season should play out. But genuinely, if you were going to be asked the question, if they gave you the decision, Dan, to finish the season or not finish the season, to make it void, what would you do?
It's difficult because we don't know when it's going to end, the crisis. As I say, I think the season should continue however you can fit it into the calendar. So as I say, the safe option might be to say, right, we're not going to play football between now and September. We're going to have a half season where we finish off the current campaign, and then we'll have a stopgap a little bit like we had in 2017 when we switched from summer to winter, and we'll get everything back in sync next year. For me, I just look at the clubs and I look at the impact on the clubs. I look at Man City and Chelsea. Both of those clubs within their own right should have the opportunity to confirm their Champions League places. They should have the opportunity to continue the battle for the title. There should be a champion this season. I look at Aston Villa, who've worked so hard and are ready for top tier football. The 6 points clear in their division. I think to take away promotion from them, which looks virtually a certainty with respect to the other clubs in that division, I think that would be really harsh. I look at, you've got 5 clubs battling for relegation at the bottom of the Championship. One club should really go down. Although the fact that Tier 3 is now void then poses the question, can they be relegated? They've kind of... Every decision should have been made at the same point, and it hasn't been.
Yeah.
So now we've got a bit of a dilemma.
I think that's half the problem. I think if the FA actually come out and actually made a joint statement on behalf of all the leagues, all the tiers, on behalf of women's football, it would have been easier to take. But it's almost offered up this sort of rumour mill of that the FAWSL is going to be nil and void, which I don't understand why they've done that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like we've got to, like you said, the end of April, and they've just made this decision. It's just and not waited to see how things go. It just, like you said, it just seems almost crazy. That they're not allowed or given the opportunity to be able to see how things play out. It is a massive disappointment on behalf of those teams that are, wanting to play and see out their seasons.
And I don't think it does the competition any good, and I think there's clubs, I'm not criticising any of the clubs because we like to support them as much as we can, but the clubs within the bottom echelons of the FA Women's Super League who probably aren't geared up at the current state of play for long-term sustainability on the pitch in the FA Women's Super League. I think I don't want to highlight Birmingham and Liverpool, but you look at the seasons they've had, you look at their investment in comparison to the other sides. Don't know whether you can, obviously Bristol has struggled also, but if you single out Birmingham and Liverpool, where a lot of clubs have made a lot of impressive signings this year, that hasn't happened for those two clubs, and you've got to question whether in the long term they're going to be sustainable based on the squads that they have at the top level. In contrast to that, you've got the likes of Aston Villa and Sheffield United at the Championship who are investing heavily in their sides. I think Villa are full time. I'm not sure whether Sheffield United are yet or not. But these clubs are wanting to be part of the elite for many years to come. So by voiding things, you're giving clubs a second chance in what has been difficult seasons for them and some difficult sets of circumstances. Should those clubs be allowed that, or should we be offering places to clubs in the top flight which have really driven on during the last 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, like I said, there's discussions to be had, decisions to be made, but with all the rumours and uncertainty and surrounding this situation, hopefully we will get some clearer answers, like you said, in the next couple of weeks at least. So it'll give, hopefully, some hope that maybe, like you said, that the clubs left in the WSL and Championship League will get to see out their seasons at least.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I think I'd like to see a decision made by the end of April, based on what has happened with the coronavirus and whether cases are still going up or whether they're beginning to drop. It allows a little bit of time for a recovery and for those figures to drop. If you leave it 4 weeks, it also doesn't leave the clubs out of the loop for too long, but it does allow for, if the situation changes, we can begin the season again. We've got to think about things where people might be told to self-isolate for a longer period, even when the virus does drop off. So you've then got to look at the merits of whether playing behind closed doors for a short period might be something worth thinking about. Some of the players in the women's game classed very much the same as you and me in terms of how we should self-isolate. But at this stage, it's too difficult to say because we know how much it's changed just in the last fortnight. Yeah. But yeah, I think we need to make a decision. But I'd like them to go down points per game, or I know that won't be too favourable with yourself. But
no.
Yeah,
no, but that's it. Like, even for us, I think, even our position was top of the league. I mean, obviously Chelsea's got that game in hand. I mean, our last game was obviously against Chelsea, and it's been such an exciting, competitive season. And even I just want to know how it's going to play out. I'm not expecting that we'll win the league. Hopefully we might, but I just want to know how it ends. There's that as well, and the FA Cup obviously still to play for. It has been a very exciting season. We had another derby, coming up as well. So, there were a lot of good games in there, and there are way more important things going on in the world at the moment, understandably. And, however this situation does progress with regards to coronavirus, first and foremost, everyone's health comes first, and hopefully getting this under control and finding a way forward, because it just seems like an impossible situation with everything going on, and we're still here talking about football, but yet it's just crazy. I can't believe that we're in this situation. I was in Wales last week, and I was really worried and anxious with everything at work and things like that. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to still go to work, but I know there are people aren't. I mean, my wife is at home and she's going crazy. We've spent our first day together in isolation, and she's like, I'm glad you're going back to work on Monday. And it's just, and how long have we, people's situations, how long, we don't even know ourselves how long this is going to last. So, people have said obviously 2-3 weeks, but it could go beyond that. And like I said, it's just an ever-changing situation, and I suppose you've got to take it day by day.
Yeah, that's right. And I think just looking at the virus and the figures themselves, I think when the lockdown started Monday night, they say that people have the symptoms about 5 days before, don't they? I think before they could come out.
Yeah. So
what's that, Tuesday? We're about 5 days now. So you'd like to think that if people have been isolating since Monday, hopefully the spread might begin to peak off a bit. Although I know that they're saying that we haven't hit the worst of it yet. I think today there's been a lot of bad news in terms of deaths. I think there's been best part of 300, which isn't good.
No.
And we don't really know what lockdown's going to do for us yet. As I say, we've only been doing it 5 days. It's only really as long as they recommend, the official kind of word is for how long you could carry the symptoms for before they come out. Give it another 2 or 3 weeks, we'll probably know a little bit more. We'll have seen what, where this is going. I think people are just going to try and stay safe for now. But as I said, don't make decisions with regard to the football. Don't make decisions too hasty, because nobody really knows what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. We could be over the worst. We could have the worst yet to come. But I don't want to see the season voided. I certainly don't want to see the season voided. I'd rather either we do a spring series next year and start the second half of this season, or the final stage of this season much later in the year, for safety, or we do it on points per game and we award clubs based on their performance in the first however many months of the current season before it was suspended. I'd rather, and I think everybody's probably with us with that I'd rather there be a conclusion rather than the fact that it hasn't ever started.
Yeah.
It's things like player records as well. Because I know somebody commented the other day about all the player records which could be wiped out from this season. You don't really want to see that. You don't want to be. I mean, I'm not a statistician as such, but you don't want to be the person who's got to rewind all the work they've done in terms of the facts and figures all this season. I would just plead with the Football Association to take a little bit of time and caution, and don't. As I say, my fear is Friday. Don't follow in the path of what the Premier League and the Football League do. Just do your own thing. Do what you think's right for the Women's Super League and the Championship. If the Premier League make a decision on Friday and they void the competition, or they set a deadline, it doesn't mean to say that it's got to be the Super League and the Championship's deadline as well, or same decision. We're at the point now where we're big enough. How many countries do we now broadcast to? I think it's it's edging towards 100. I think. I think that we get huge exposure for our game now. We should be able to make our own decisions about what we do going forward. So, as I say, I hope that we don't follow the blanket decision which has happened at certainly in the lower non-league levels of the men's and women's games within the last 48 hours. Let's just hang on just a little bit, even if it's till the end of April, and then we make a concrete decision of, right, this is what we're going to do.
I think everyone will pretty much echo that sentiment, Dan. I don't think you could probably put it any better. So let's just get some good news over the next couple of weeks, and we have a league that we can get back to and look forward to in the coming weeks or months at least. Man City have announced they've offered the Etihad Stadium over to the NHS to use it however they need in the ongoing fight against coronavirus. They're the latest football club to make the gesture. What a fantastic gesture it is as well.
I think we've seen so many players offer to be volunteers as well for the NHS the last few hours.
Yeah.
The last few days even. Everyone's wanting to do their bit. We know, and I know personally from working with Manchester City, just what a community-based club it is. Despite the size of the club, they've still got the community roots at heart. You've only got to walk into the Academy Stadium, and when you go in there, and you walk up the stairs, kind of get into the press box, there's pictures of the tea lady and, the kit man and God knows what else hanging on the walls. It's got a community feel about it.
Yeah.
It's very much a community club. It's very much a club for the people of Manchester. It doesn't surprise me. I think it's a wonderful gesture by the club, but I don't think it surprises me one bit because, this is what Manchester City is about. They're about the people of Manchester. And
not only that as well, they've offered support to local food banks as well in Manchester, and teamed up with United to do that as well, which is great. We've seen a lot of good things come from the last few weeks. Lots of positives despite it being such a difficult time as well.
Yeah, and it's great to see City and United coming together, to be honest. This season, obviously, there's been a new rivalry in the women's game struck up between the two sides. At times it's been fierce, at times it's been friendly. I think certainly from running our publication, we've had the best from both groups this year. Both sets of fans should be proud of what they're achieving on the terraces. To see to see the two clubs come together, in unity at this time is what it should be about, really. It's fantastic for Manchester and obviously the surrounding area as well. Both for those who need the NHS help, and also the food banks, because we've got a situation now as well where people are losing their jobs, we're falling back into recession. People need these lifelines more than ever before, or certainly for a lot of years. It's fantastic that both clubs are really rallying round and trying to help people as much as they can within the community.
It is really good to see. I mean, especially like heartwarming. I mean, like you said, the community, people coming together, the kindness that everyone's shown, the offers, the gestures of support, and helping each other out. It's just been incredible, really, the coming together of the communities.
Yeah, I mean, football's family, isn't it? It's not blood related, but football's family, or some will argue that it is blood related. I'm pretty sure I don't say that there's blue blood in the veins, but it is part of your family. You can say whatever you want about football, but if you go there week in, week out to every game, and whether it's home or away, if you can't make it, you're watching on TV, you're watching the highlights, you're following it on social media. It's a big part of your life, and it's part of the family. And the football club is caring for the community just like you would for your grandparents right now, or that person within your family who can't function themselves during the current climate. So it really is fantastic to see. But as I say, I mean, from City's point of view, they've always been very much about the City of Manchester. They've always been a community club, even when they've, from now that they're one of the giants in the Premier League. And long may that continue.
We had one last question, so I'm going to finish the podcast with this one because I thought it was a good way to end. Kath has sent a question in saying, if you had to choose, who would be your favourite Man City women football player? Who would it be? And no bottling out. I don't know what she means by no bottling out, but I was going to ask you, who is your favourite player for Man City? And also, who is your all-time favourite player as well?
Yeah, no, I probably haven't been watching the game as long as you have, so that's the favourite. I'm going to say Ellen White, and I'm just going to say Ellen White because there's a lot of people who say, and I've had it over the last few years covering the women's game, that it's behind the men's, it's not the same, people can't get into it, and so on and so on. But for me, Ellen White is as good a out and out striker in the women's game as what you'll see in the men's game. I'm not saying that she can go and be an Aguero or whatever. I'm saying that in terms of her technique, it's as close to a men's striker as you're going to get. It's if we're talking a football, just as football without sex coming into it, in terms of the role which a typical top class striker should have and their attributes, I think Ellen's got it. So I'm going to say Ellen White on that one. All time's a tough one. It's a tough one, because it's funny. You've probably seen some of the best from the likes of Ronnie Duggan and Nikita Paris. Because I haven't watched City week after week, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm a curse or what, but when I've watched players like that, I've never really got what they're about, which is bizarre. But I don't know. You'll have seen them a lot more than me, and I'm sure you'll have seen the world class elements of those players. But I'm going to say of all time, I'm going to say Steph Houghton. It's an easy one. It's probably a quick get out, but
good choice.
Everything which Manchester City represents. She's obviously captain, and that steel at the back, and having spoke to her a lot when she's been on international duty with the Lionesses as well. Yeah. She's just a class act. She's a leader. She's a player who you'd very much want to build your team around. And she's just great for the community as well. Yeah. And again, when you need people to lead, she comes up trumps. And you think of we all know that Steph's got a difficult life away from football, but the fact that she just turns up every week, puts in fantastic performances, and that she's that role model for club and country. For me, I'll give her the all-time gong for that.
Yeah, I would have to absolutely agree with that. I mean, she's, like you said, she's had her setbacks through injury, you know, her personal life as well, but she's ever the professional. You know, she's the epitome for me of the women's game. She's been someone that I've, you know, watched very closely over the years since I got involved with the women's game, even from her days at Arsenal. So, you know, I love Steph. I think she's a fantastic role model, and she's got so much courage and professionalism, and she really is a leader. And I think, you know, when Steph does hang up her boots, I think it will be a very sad day and a great loss to the women's game, because she is just like you said, just a fantastic role model, really, for the professional game.
Yeah, I'd agree, and you know, it's you know, particularly for the national team, she's had some unfair criticism recently as well, and you know, obviously because England haven't done so well, obviously manager will first and foremost come in the firing line, but it's kind of who do you look at next, and people naturally look at the players who are leading the team because they expect them to put in a world-class performance every time they go on the pitch. But, you know, I think she does an excellent job. I think, you know, she does get unfair criticism from the national team, but, you know, I think she's superb for both club and country. You know, and name me a better player than Steph Houghton to put in her position. I don't think you can.
No, yeah, I don't think you can either, to be honest. I think she's definitely one of the best centre-backs in the women's game, for sure. So on that note, Dan, I just wanted to finish on talking about the magazine. Obviously, you've announced on Twitter that you're putting together a free PDF version of the magazine because of coronavirus and obviously the limited content that you're able to get at the moment. I mean, obviously this has had an effect on you. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the monthly editions which we've been sending out and producing for the past 20 months, I think. We've obviously had to halt those for obvious reasons. You know, we just can't fill 48 pages in the current climate when there's no games. There wasn't a game played in March, so it's impossible. You can still get those from the Manchester City Women Official Supporters Club. So if you haven't got our March edition yet, if you contact them, I'm sure they'll sort you out. Whether that be by post or keeping you a copy for after the crisis to collect, then you know we'd really appreciate your support in getting your copy. We are currently selling bundles from back issues. If you haven't got some of our former issues, I think we've got most of them in stock. Yeah, we just thought to keep smiles on faces and to keep a little bit of normality in there in difficult times, we're going to produce a 16-page special beginning of April with a little bit of news from each club. We'll get some messages from supporters clubs in there, maybe players. We'll get a few features. We'll look at the Lionesses in the She Believes, that sort of thing. But yeah, we understand as well at the minute that people are losing jobs. We're falling into recession, so we're going to offer that free of charge. And yeah, it's just going to be an online version as well. But yeah, just if you keep an eye on our social media in the next few days, we'll give you details of how we can send you a copy.
Just in case people wanted to find you on social media, where will you be?
First thing is, we're up and running with our website. We've actually had record visitors this month. We've had nearly 50,000 people on the site, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's fawslfulltime.co.uk. I think we're getting 2 or 3 articles a day on there, which is really good. But yeah, we're getting anything between 1,000 and 3,000 or 4,000 visitors a day, which is brilliant. If you look on Twitter at FAWSLFT, same on Facebook. We don't use Facebook as much, but yeah, if you keep an eye on our Twitter page, we're going to put an article on there as well on the website when we release the one-off edition.
Brilliant, yeah, and we'll obviously retweet that as well. So. For our followers. It's been great talking to you, Dan. I know it's been a while, and hopefully it won't be that long next time, and I hopefully look forward to seeing you soon at a game.
Yeah, I'd just like to say to everybody, obviously stay safe, stay at home, support the NHS, support us. Obviously, we still need you during these times. Yeah. Whether it be interacting with us, buying the magazine, giving us your opinions. I think staying safe is also the mental aspect. We want to be able to talk to people if people want to talk about football or whatever else, is on their minds. But yeah, I'm just, echo what's already been said, stay safe, but let's keep talking and, don't be alone. If there's anybody sat at home listening to this fan cast and, they haven't been out, they haven't spoken to anybody within a couple of days, pick up the phone, log on the internet and, let's keep talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think now more than ever, I think it's important for us all to reach out to one another and make sure everyone's doing okay, and just to be that bit of support if someone needs it. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all finding this tough. It might get tougher before it gets better. I'm sure it will. But yeah, for me personally, I don't turn the news on too much because it depresses me a bit when I see it every night, and you've got the Prime Minister's speech and everything. But yeah, if it works for you talking about football 24/7, then yeah, do it to break out of that kind of depression. Go out for a walk. It's just important to get too bogged down with the country's problems at the moment, as remain aware of what the situation is.
Absolutely, and hopefully it won't be too long before we're back at our stadiums, supporting our teams and having a good day of football. I do believe it's not that far away. Take care of yourself, and thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and like I said, hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, cheers Emma, stay safe.
You
Thanks.
too, mate.
Bye.
Bye.